Margaret Sterling grabbed Olivia's wrist and slammed her hand down onto the divorce papers. "Sign it, you worthless tramp. Sign it before I have you dragged out like the garbage you are." 7 months pregnant. Olivia had been standing for an hour while the entire Sterling family sat drinking champagne, laughing at every tear that fell from her eyes. Her husband Daniel didn't even look at her. He was too busy rubbing his mistress's pregnant belly, whispering promises meant for his wife. But none of them noticed the phone buzzing on the table. None of them saw the name Dad. None of them knew that the woman they called a gold-digging nobody was Olivia Blackwood, only daughter of William Blackwood, the billionaire whose net worth could purchase their entire bloodline 1,000 times over. And none of them knew he was already on his way. Before we begin, I invite you to subscribe to my channel and follow this story to the very end. Comment below with the city you're watching from, so I can see how far this story has traveled. Margaret Sterling's fingernails dug into Olivia's wrist, hard enough to leave marks. "I said sign it faster. We don't have all night to watch you blubber." "Mother, let her go." Daniel's voice came from across the room, but he didn't move from Victoria's side. "She'll sign. She knows what happens if she doesn't." Olivia's hand trembled as she picked up the pen. Page 14 of 23. Each signature felt like a knife carving pieces from her heart. Her 7-month pregnant belly pressed against the mahogany table because no one had offered her a chair. Not once in the past hour. "You know what's funny?" Victoria spoke up, her hand resting on her own 6-month bump. "I was worried she'd make a scene. But look at her. She's signing everything without a fight. I told you she was weak, Daniel." Daniel laughed. He actually laughed. "You were right, baby. You're always right." Olivia's pen stopped moving. She looked up at the man she had married 3 years ago, the man who had promised to love her in sickness and health, the man whose child was growing inside her at this very moment. "Daniel," she whispered, "please, can we talk about this privately? Just 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." "Talk about what?" He finally met her eyes, and Olivia saw nothing there. No love, no guilt, not even hatred, just empty, cold indifference. "There's nothing left to say, Olivia. I don't love you. I haven't loved you for a long time. And this baby—" He gestured at her belly with his champagne glass. "We both know you probably got pregnant on purpose to trap me." "That's not true." Her voice cracked. "Daniel, you know that's not true. We planned this baby together. You held my hand when the doctor confirmed it. You cried. I cried because I realized what a mistake I'd made." He took a long sip of champagne. "Marrying you was the worst decision of my life, but at least I'm fixing it now." Victoria crossed the room, her heels clicking against the hardwood with each deliberate step. She stopped right next to Olivia, close enough that their pregnant bellies almost touched. "Let me make something clear," Victoria said softly, her voice pitched so only Olivia could hear. "That nursery you decorated, I'm tearing it down tomorrow. That bedroom you shared with Daniel, I've already picked out new sheets. And that baby inside you—" She smiled, sweet as poison. "Daniel's going to fight for full custody. You'll be lucky if you see her on holidays." Olivia's hand flew to her belly protectively. "You can't do that. You can't take my daughter." "Watch me." Victoria stepped back, raising her voice for the room to hear. "Daniel, honey, she's threatening me. Did you hear what she just said?" "What?" Daniel was at Victoria's side instantly. "Olivia, what did you say to her?" "I didn't. She was the one who—" "Enough." Margaret Sterling rose from her chair, champagne in hand, queen of her domain. "This is exactly why we're doing this tonight. She's unstable, aggressive, clearly unfit to be a mother." "I'm not unstable." Olivia's voice rose before she could stop it. "Your son cheated on me for over a year. His mistress is pregnant. And I'm the one who's unstable." The room went quiet. Thomas Sterling, Daniel's younger brother, let out a low whistle. "Wow, she's actually fighting back. I didn't think she had it in her." "She doesn't." Margaret set down her glass and walked toward Olivia, with the measured pace of a predator approaching wounded prey. She's just desperate. Gold diggers always get desperate when they realize the game is over. Margaret stopped directly in front of Olivia, so close their faces were inches apart. "Let me tell you something, sweetheart." Margaret's breath smelled like expensive champagne and cheap cruelty. "I knew what you were the moment Daniel brought you home. A substitute teacher with no family, no money, no connections. You saw my son and you saw a meal ticket. That's not—" "Don't interrupt me." Margaret's hand shot out and gripped Olivia's chin, forcing her head up. "You wormed your way into this family with your sad eyes and your sweet act. You got pregnant to lock Daniel down. But here's what you didn't count on." She leaned closer, her lips nearly touching Olivia's ear. "Victoria is everything you're not. Beautiful, sophisticated, from a good family. She's the woman Daniel should have married in the first place. And now, he's finally correcting his mistake." Margaret released Olivia's chin with a small shove that sent her stumbling backward. Her pregnant belly threw off her balance, and she grabbed the table edge to keep from falling. No one moved to help her. Not Daniel, not Thomas, not Robert Sterling, who sat in his leather chair nursing bourbon and watching the scene like it was dinner theater. "Page 15, Margaret commanded. "Sign it." Olivia's vision blurred with tears. She found page 15, found the signature line, signed her name with a hand that wouldn't stop shaking. Her phone buzzed on the table. She saw the screen light up Dad, 12 missed calls. She looked away quickly, but not quickly enough. "Who's calling you?" Daniel crossed to the table and picked up her phone. "Dad, I thought you didn't have any family." Olivia's heart stopped. For 3 years, she had kept this secret. For 3 years, she had hidden who she really was, because she needed to believe that Daniel loved her for her, not for what she was worth. "It's no one," she said quickly. "Wrong number." 12 wrong numbers. Daniel's eyes narrowed. "From the same person." "Give me my phone, Daniel." "Why? What are you hiding?" He held the phone above his head, out of her reach. "Is this your other boyfriend? The real father of that baby?" "There is no other man." Olivia jumped for the phone, but her pregnant body couldn't reach. "Daniel, please, just give it back." Victoria plucked the phone from Daniel's hand. "Let me see." She scrolled through the notifications, her perfectly manicured nails tapping the screen. 12 missed calls, 17 text messages, all from someone named Dad. She looked up at Olivia with theatrical confusion. "I thought you were an orphan. That's what you told Daniel, isn't it? That your parents died when you were young." "I never said I was an orphan." Olivia's voice came out strangled. "I said I was estranged from my family. There's a difference." "Estranged." Margaret's ears perked up like a shark scenting blood. "Why? What did you do that was so terrible your own family disowned you?" "They didn't disown me. I chose to—" "She's lying." Victoria held up the phone triumphantly. "Look at these texts. Olivia, please call me back. I'm worried about you. I love you. Please let me help." She read the messages in a mocking baby voice, and the room filled with cruel laughter. "How sweet," Thomas called out. "Daddy still loves his little gold digger. Give me my phone." Olivia's voice dropped to something cold and hard. A voice she hadn't used in 3 years. A voice that had once commanded respect in boardrooms and charity galas and the halls of power her family moved through like kings. The laughter stopped. Something in Olivia's tone made even Margaret hesitate. "I said give me my phone." Olivia held out her hand. "Now." Victoria looked at Daniel uncertainly. For a moment, no one moved. Then Margaret laughed, shattering the tension. "Look at her trying to sound intimidating. Sweetheart, you're a substitute teacher who drives a 10-year-old Honda. You don't scare anyone." She snatched the phone from Victoria's hand and threw it across the room. It hit the wall and clattered to the floor, the screen cracking on impact. "There. Now you can focus on what matters, signing these papers and getting out of our lives forever." Olivia stared at her broken phone at the messages from her father scattered across the cracked screen. 3 years ago, she had walked away from William Blackwood because she wanted to prove she could make it on her own. She had wanted to find love that wasn't complicated by money or power or family legacy. She had found Daniel instead. And now she was standing in his family's house, 7 months pregnant, signing divorce papers, while they laughed at her pain. "Page 16, Margaret commanded. Olivia turned the page. Signed. Turned another page. Signed. Her hand moved mechanically, while her mind traveled somewhere far away. She thought about the first time Daniel said he loved her. They had been walking along the Charles River 6 months into dating, and he had stopped suddenly and turned to face her with tears in his eyes. "I've never felt this way about anyone," he had said. "You make me want to be a better man. You make me believe I can actually achieve my dreams." She had believed him. God help her, she had believed every word. "You're slowing down again." Margaret's voice cut through her memories. "Sign faster. I need water." Olivia's mouth was so dry she could barely speak. "Please, just a glass of water." "You don't need anything except to finish signing and leave." Margaret gestured to the housekeeper hovering at the doorway. "Maria, don't give her anything. She can get water when she's off our property." The housekeeper nodded and disappeared. Olivia's legs were shaking. She had been standing for over an hour now, and her back screamed with pain that radiated down through her hips. The baby was pressing on her bladder. Her ankles were swollen. Black spots danced at the edges of her vision. "I need to sit down," she said. "Please, just for a moment." "You can sit in your car." Daniel's voice was ice. "After you're done." "Daniel, I'm 7 months pregnant. Your daughter is inside me right now. Can you at least show that much consideration?" "My daughter." Daniel laughed bitterly. "You mean the baby you probably conceived with someone else to trap me?" "That daughter. You know she's yours. The paternity test proved it." "Tests can be faked." "By who?" Olivia's voice rose. "I'm a substitute teacher, Daniel. I don't have the money or connections to fake a paternity test. And why would I wanted this baby. I wanted us to be a family. You're the one who destroyed that." Victoria moved to Daniel's side, wrapping her arm around his waist. "Don't let her manipulate you, baby. This is exactly what she does. She plays the victim so you'll feel sorry for her." "I'm not playing anything." Olivia looked at Victoria with disgust she no longer tried to hide. "You were his assistant. You sat at a desk outside his office and watched me bring him lunch every day. You smiled at me. You asked about my pregnancy, and the whole time you were sleeping with my husband. I was making him happy." Victoria's smile was serene. "Something you clearly couldn't do. I made him happy for 3 years. Did you? Because he came to me 8 months after your wedding. 8 months, Olivia. That's how long it took him to realize he'd made a mistake." The words hit Olivia like physical blows. 8 months. She thought back to what had been happening 8 months into their marriage. Daniel's firm had just failed its first major project. He had been depressed, withdrawn. She had tried everything to support him, encouraging words, home-cooked meals, gentle suggestions about restructuring the business. He had pushed her away, told her he needed space, spent longer and longer hours at the office, with Victoria. "You targeted him," Olivia said slowly, the realization crystallizing in her mind. "You saw a married man going through a hard time, and you targeted him." "I saw a man who wasn't being appreciated by his wife." Victoria's voice dripped with false sweetness. "I gave him what you couldn't." "What I couldn't?" Olivia laughed, and the sound surprised everyone in the room, including herself. "You have no idea what I could have given him, what I did give him." "Oh," Margaret stepped forward, curious despite herself. "And what exactly did you give my son, other than stretch marks and excuses?" Olivia's mouth opened. The truth sat on her tongue, like a live coal burning to be released. She had given Daniel $200,000 to save his failing business. She had paid off his parents' second mortgage anonymously when they were about to lose their house. She had introduced him to clients through carefully constructed coincidences that had kept his firm afloat for 2 years. She had given him everything, and he had never known, because she had wanted him to succeed on his own terms. She had wanted to protect his pride. What a fool she had been. "Nothing," she said, finally swallowing the truth. "I gave him nothing. You're right about everything. I'm a gold digger who trapped your precious son with a pregnancy. I'm worthless and pathetic, and I deserve everything that's happening to me tonight." She turned back to the papers and signed page 17 with violent force. Margaret exchanged glances with Daniel. Something in Olivia's sudden surrender made them both uneasy. "Page 18, Margaret said, but her voice was less certain now. Olivia signed. Page 19. Page 20. Her hand moved faster and faster, slashing her signature across each document like she was cutting away the last 3 years of her life. "What's she doing?" Thomas whispered loudly to his wife Caroline. "Why is she signing so fast all of a sudden?" "Who cares?" Caroline giggled. "At least it'll be over soon." But Margaret was watching Olivia with narrowed eyes. In 30 years of manipulating people, she had developed an instinct for when something wasn't right, and something about Olivia's sudden compliance felt very, very wrong. "Stop!" Margaret commanded. Olivia's pen paused over page 21. "You told me to sign faster." "I'm telling you to stop." Margaret moved closer, studying Olivia's face. "What changed? 2 minutes ago you were crying and begging. Now you're practically throwing your signature at these papers. What do you know that we don't?" "I don't know anything." Olivia met Margaret's gaze steadily. "I just realized you're right. I don't belong in this family. I never did. The sooner I sign these papers, the sooner I can leave and never see any of you again." "She's lying." Victoria's voice was sharp. "Look at her eyes. She's planning something." "Planning what?" Olivia spread her hands. "I'm a substitute teacher with no money, no family, and no connections. What could I possibly plan that would affect any of you?" The room was silent. Everyone stared at Olivia, trying to read the truth behind her calm facade. Then her cracked phone, lying forgotten on the floor, began to ring. The sound cut through the silence like a siren. Everyone turned to look at the shattered device, its screen lighting up with an incoming call. "Dad." "Don't answer it," Daniel said quickly. "Just ignore it." But the phone kept ringing, and ringing, and ringing. "For God's sake, someone turn that off." Margaret pressed her hand to her temple. "The noise is giving me a headache." Thomas walked over and picked up the phone. He looked at the screen, then at Olivia. 17 missed calls from this number. Whoever your daddy is, he really wants to talk to you." The phone stopped ringing. A moment later, a text message appeared. Thomas read it aloud. "I know where you are. I'm coming. They have no idea what they've done." The room went cold. What does that mean? Robert Sterling spoke for the first time in 20 minutes. Who's coming? What have we done? Olivia said nothing. She just looked at the cracked phone in Thomas's hand, at the message that would change everything. Her father was coming. William Blackwood, founder of a $34 billion empire, was coming to the Sterling family's Christmas party. And he was not coming alone. "Answer me." Robert stood up, his bourbon sloshing in his glass. "Olivia, who is your father? What is going on?" "It doesn't matter." Olivia's voice was quiet, resigned. "Just let me finish signing the papers. I'll be gone before he gets here." "Before who gets here?" Margaret grabbed Olivia's arm, her nails digging in. "Tell me right now, or I swear to God." The doorbell rang. Everyone froze. "Nobody move." Robert set down his bourbon and walked toward the foyer. "I'll handle this." The room listened in tense silence as Robert's footsteps echoed on the marble floor. They heard the front door open, heard Robert say, "Can I help you?" And then they heard a voice that some of them recognized from television interviews and business magazine profiles. A voice that carried the weight of $34 billion and the power to destroy lives with a single phone call. "Yes, you can help me. You can step aside and let me see my daughter." Footsteps approached the living room. Multiple footsteps, heavy and purposeful. William Blackwood walked through the doorway first. He was 63 years old, with silver hair and a custom coat that cost more than Daniel's annual salary. Behind him came two bodyguards in dark suits, followed by a sharp-featured Asian man carrying a leather briefcase. William's eyes swept the room, taking in every detail. The champagne glasses, the divorce papers on the table, his pregnant daughter standing alone while her husband's family sat in comfortable chairs. "Dad." Olivia's voice broke on the single syllable. William crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled her into his arms, gently, carefully mindful of her pregnancy. His hand cradled the back of her head the way it had when she was a child. "I've got you," he murmured. "I've got you, sweetheart. It's over now." Olivia broke. 3 years of pain and loneliness and betrayal came pouring out in sobs that shook her entire body. "I'm sorry," she gasped. "Dad, I'm so sorry. You were right. You were right about everything." "Shh." William held her tighter. "We'll talk about that later. Right now, I need you to know that you're safe, and that everything is going to be okay." Margaret found her voice first. "Excuse me, but who the hell are you? And how dare you walk into my house uninvited?" William didn't release his daughter. He spoke over his shoulder, his voice calm and cold. "Your house? Is that what you think this is?" He turned then, keeping one arm around Olivia, and faced Margaret with an expression that had made senators and CEOs physically recoil. "My name is William Blackwood. I'm the founder and CEO of Blackwell Industries, Blackwell Technologies, Blackwell Real Estate Holdings, and 47 other companies that employ 180,000 people and generate $34 billion in annual revenue." The blood drained from Margaret's face. "And the woman you just spent an hour torturing," William continued, "is my only daughter, Olivia Blackwood, sole heir to everything I've built." Thomas's champagne glass slipped from his fingers and shattered on the floor. Caroline made a sound like a wounded animal. Robert sat down heavily in his chair, his face gray. And Daniel. Daniel stood frozen, his mouth opening and closing, no words coming out. His eyes moved from Olivia to William to the bodyguards to the man with the briefcase, trying to process what he was hearing. "That's impossible." His voice came out strangled. "Olivia doesn't have family. She's a substitute teacher. She drives a Honda. My daughter worked as a substitute teacher because she loves children." William's voice could have frozen fire. "She drove a Honda because she was testing you. She wanted to see if anyone could love her for who she was, not what she was worth." He looked at Daniel with undisguised contempt. "She found you instead." Victoria backed away slowly, her face white. "Daniel, I had no idea. You said she was nobody. You said—" "Shut up." Daniel's voice was vicious. "Just shut up. Don't speak to her like that." Margaret rallied, drawing herself up with the last shreds of her dignity. "And you, Mr. Blackwood, billionaire or not, you can't just barge into our home and make threats. We have rights. We have lawyers." "You have lawyers?" William smiled, and it was the most terrifying expression anyone in the room had ever seen. "What a coincidence. So do I." He gestured to the man with the briefcase. "This is Marcus Chen. He's been my chief legal counsel for 30 years. He's negotiated mergers worth more than your entire bloodline and dismantled companies that made the mistake of crossing me." Marcus stepped forward and set his briefcase on the table right next to Olivia's divorce papers. "Good evening," he said pleasantly. I have some documents you'll all want to see." He opened the briefcase and removed a stack of papers that dwarfed the divorce agreement. "Let's start with this house." Margaret's hand flew to her throat. "What about this house?" 1247 Maple Ridge Drive was purchased by Blackwell Holdings subsidiary Evergreen Properties, LLC, 18 months ago. Marcus consulted his documents. "Your family was in default on a second mortgage. Rather than allow the bank to foreclose, we stepped in and acquired the property at auction." "That's a lie." Robert's voice shook. "I would have known. I'm an accountant. I would have seen." "You saw a mysterious benefactor paying off your debts." Marcus looked up from his papers. "You assumed it was an inheritance from a distant relative exactly as we intended you to assume. The truth is that you've been living in a Blackwell property for a year and a half paying below market rent because my client wanted to ensure his daughter's comfort." He flipped to the next page. "As of tonight, your lease agreement has been terminated under breach of contract clause 17 subsection 3, hostile treatment of family members. You have 72 hours to vacate." 72 hours! Margaret's voice hit a pitch that made the crystal chandelier rattle. "You can't do this." "It's Christmas." "It's December 23rd, William said mildly. "You have until December 26th. Consider it my gift to you." Marcus continued without pause. "Daniel Sterling, senior architect at Sterling & Associates, a firm that has operated at a loss for the past 3 years. The only reason you haven't declared bankruptcy is a series of anonymous investments totaling $217,000. Daniel's face went the color of old newspaper. "Those investments came from Blackwell Ventures," Marcus said. "They were arranged by my client to support his daughter's husband without damaging the husband's pride." He paused to let that sink in. "The investments are being withdrawn. Your firm will enter bankruptcy proceedings Monday morning. I recommend consulting a career counselor." "No!" Daniel lunged forward, but William's bodyguards moved to intercept him. "You can't do this. Those investments are legally binding. You can't just pull them out. Read the contract you signed." Marcus's voice was ice. Subsection 4, paragraph 3. "Investments may be withdrawn at any time if the recipient is found to have acted in bad faith toward Blackwell family members. Divorcing your pregnant wife while your mistress watches qualifies." Thomas stepped forward, his face twisted with desperate anger. "What about me? I had nothing to do with my brother's marriage. You can't punish me for—" "Thomas Sterling." Marcus consulted another document. "Marketing Director at Coastal Tech Solutions. Salary $78,000. Outstanding debts totaling $159,000. Thomas's mouth snapped shut. Coastal Tech relies on contracts with Blackwell Industries subsidiaries for 60% of their revenue. Those contracts are being terminated effective immediately. Your company will be forced to downsize, and given your performance reviews, which I have here, you'll be among the first eliminated." Caroline burst into tears. Thomas put his arm around her, but he looked like he could barely stand himself. Marcus turned to Robert Sterling. "Robert Sterling, retired accountant, pension from Morrison & Associates Financial Services. That pension is administered through a fund partially managed by Blackwell Investment Group." Robert's bourbon glass crashed to the floor, joining the other broken crystal. "Given recent discoveries about your firm's accounting practices during your tenure, a formal audit will be launched next week. I expect the results will be quite illuminating." "I never did anything wrong." Robert's voice was barely a whisper. "I was just—" "Save it for the grand jury." Finally, Marcus turned to Margaret Sterling. "Margaret Sterling, board member of St. Mary's Children's Hospital, chair of the Hartford Women's Charitable Foundation, member of 7 different social organizations throughout Connecticut." Margaret lifted her chin defiantly, but her hands were shaking so hard she had to clasp them together. "Every single one of those positions exists because of donations from the Blackwell Foundation." Marcus smiled without warmth. "Your hospital board seat was funded by our annual contribution of $4 million. Your foundation chairmanship was supported by our sponsorship of their major events." Your membership in Hartford's most exclusive social club was facilitated by a recommendation letter from Elizabeth Blackwood, my client's late wife. His voice hardened. All of those donations are being withdrawn immediately. Your board seat has been terminated. Your chairmanship will be revoked when the foundation announces their change in leadership tomorrow morning, and your social club membership. He closed his briefcase with a decisive snap. Let's just say that by this time next week, you won't be able to get a table at Applebee's. The room was silent except for the sound of crying. Caroline sobbing into Thomas's shoulder. Margaret weeping quietly. Mascara running down her cheeks in black rivers. Robert staring at nothing, his face the color of ash. Only Daniel remained dry-eyed. He stood in the center of the destruction, staring at Olivia with an expression that mixed horror with something like accusation. You lied to me. His voice was hoarse. For 3 years you lied about who you were. Olivia pulled away from her father's protective embrace and faced Daniel directly. I never lied. I just didn't tell you I was rich. And do you know why? She stepped toward him, her pregnant belly between them like a shield. Because I wanted you to love me. Just me. Not my father's money or my family's connections. I wanted you to love the woman who read to sick children, the woman who believed in your dreams, the woman who would have spent her whole life trying to make you happy. Her voice cracked, but she forced herself to continue. And for a little while, I thought you did. I thought we had something real. But you never saw me at all, did you? You saw what you wanted to see. And when I didn't fit your fantasy of the perfect wife, you found someone who would tell you what you wanted to hear. She looked at Victoria, who was pressing herself against the wall like she wanted to disappear. She told you that you were brilliant, that your failures weren't your fault, that you deserved better than me, and you believed her because it was easier than looking in the mirror. Olivia. Daniel's voice broke. I made a mistake. I see that now. Please, we can fix this. The divorce papers, they're not filed yet. We can tear them up and start over. Start over! Olivia laughed, and the sound was sharp as broken glass. You forced me to sign divorce papers while I was 7 months pregnant. You made me stand for an hour while your family sat comfortable and mocked me. You called our daughter a trap. You let your mother call me garbage. She shook her head slowly. There is no starting over from that, Daniel. There's only moving forward, without you. But the baby. Daniel stepped toward her, and the bodyguards moved in warning. She's mine too. You can't just take her away from me. Your daughter will carry the Blackwood name, Olivia said quietly. She'll grow up knowing that her grandfather loved her before she was even born. She'll have every opportunity, every advantage, every door opened for her. She paused, and her voice dropped to something cold and final. But she'll also know the truth. That her father threw her away before she took her first breath because he was too busy with his mistress to value what he had. That's the legacy you've chosen, Daniel, not me. Olivia, please. We're done here. William stepped forward, putting himself between his daughter and her ex-husband. Marcus, is there anything else? Just one thing. Marcus pulled a final document from his briefcase. Mrs. Sterling, you mentioned earlier that you've been telling everyone in your social circle that Olivia is a gold digger. I thought you should know that tomorrow morning, every newspaper in Connecticut will receive a press release announcing that Olivia Blackwood, daughter of William Blackwood, has finalized her divorce from Daniel Sterling after discovering his affair with his assistant. Margaret's face went from white to green. The release will include details about how she was treated during the divorce proceedings, how she was forced to stand while pregnant, how she was denied water, how she was called worthless garbage and a gold digger by people who had no idea who she was. Marcus tucked the document back into his briefcase. By noon tomorrow, every person you've ever tried to impress will know exactly what kind of family the Sterlings really are. Enjoy explaining that at your next charity luncheon. William guided Olivia toward the door, his arm firm around her shoulders. She leaned into him, exhaustion finally overwhelming her now that the adrenaline was fading. Wait. Daniel's voice cracked with desperation. Olivia, wait. I love you. I know I haven't shown it, but I do. Please, give me another chance. Olivia stopped at the doorway. She didn't turn around. You don't love me, Daniel. You never did. You loved the idea of me, the supportive wife who made you feel special. And now you love the idea of my money. She took another step toward the door. But I'm not an idea anymore. I'm a woman who finally sees you clearly. And what I see is a man I'm glad my daughter will never know. She walked out into the December cold without looking back. The snow was falling softly, covering the driveway in white, making everything look clean and innocent. William helped her into the waiting SUV. The leather seats were warm, the interior quiet and safe. Olivia leaned her head against her father's shoulder and closed her eyes. It's over, she whispered. It's finally over. Yes, sweetheart. William kissed the top of her head. It's over. And now, we can begin again. The convoy pulled away from the Sterling house, leaving behind a family in ruins. Inside, Margaret had collapsed into a chair, her sobs echoing off walls she no longer owned. Robert sat motionless, staring at his hands like he didn't recognize them. Thomas and Caroline were already arguing about money, about blame, about whose fault this was. And Daniel stood at the window, watching the taillights disappear into the snow, watching everything he had thrown away vanish into the night. He had married a billionaire's daughter. He had held in his hands the kind of fortune that could have built empires, secured dynasties, changed the world. And he had traded it all for Victoria. Victoria, who was even now gathering her coat and heading for the door. Where are you going? Daniel grabbed her arm. Victoria, where are you going? Away from here. She yanked free, her face hard. You told me you were going to be rich, Daniel. You said once you divorced your wife we'd live like kings. But look at you now. No job, no house, no money, no future. But the baby. Our baby. Victoria laughed, and it was the ugliest sound Daniel had ever heard. Your baby. I never said I was keeping it. That was just what you wanted to believe. She walked out the door, and Daniel didn't try to stop her. He just stood there, surrounded by his destroyed family, finally understanding what he had done. He had thrown away the only person who had ever truly loved him, and he would spend the rest of his life paying for that mistake. Outside, the snow kept falling, covering the Sterling house in white. But no amount of snow could cover what had happened here tonight. No amount of time could undo the cruelty they had shown. Some stains never wash away, and some lessons are only learned when it's far too late. In the back of the SUV, Olivia placed her hand on her pregnant belly and felt her daughter kick. Strong and insistent, already fighting to be born into a world that could be so cruel and so beautiful at the same time. I'm going to give you everything, Olivia whispered to her baby. Everything I have and everything I am. And I'm going to teach you that your worth isn't measured by what you have, but by who you are, by how you treat people who can't fight back, by the kindness you show when no one is watching. She closed her eyes and let herself finally rest. The worst was over, and the best was just beginning. The SUV had barely pulled away from the Sterling house when Olivia's body began to shake. Not from cold, not from fear. From the release of 3 years of pressure finally finding its way out through her bones. Breathe, sweetheart. William's hand rubbed circles on her back. Just breathe. I can't. Olivia's teeth chattered. Dad, I can't stop shaking. I think something's wrong. William leaned forward immediately. Marcus, call Dr. Chen. Tell her we're bringing Olivia in. Possible stress-induced complications. Already on it. Marcus had his phone to his ear before William finished speaking. Olivia grabbed her father's arm. The baby. Dad, what if something's wrong with the baby? I was standing for so long. They wouldn't let me sit. They wouldn't even give me water. The baby is going to be fine. William's voice was steady, but Olivia could see the fear in his eyes. You're both going to be fine, I promise. You can't promise that. Tears streamed down her face. You can't promise anything. I made such a mess of everything. I threw away my family for a man who never loved me. I cut you off for 2 years. 2 years, Dad. And you still came for me. Of course I came for you. William pulled her closer. You're my daughter. There is nothing you could ever do that would make me stop loving you. Nothing. The SUV accelerated through the snowy streets. Olivia pressed her hand to her belly, feeling for movement, desperate for reassurance that her daughter was still okay. The baby kicked. Hard. Olivia sobbed with relief. She's moving! Dad, she's moving! That's my granddaughter! William's voice cracked. Strong like her mother. Strong like her grandmother. At the mention of her mother, Olivia cried harder. Elizabeth Blackwood had died 4 years ago, just 6 months before Olivia met Daniel. The grief had made Olivia vulnerable, desperate for connection, willing to believe in love, even when all the signs pointed to danger. Mom would be so disappointed in me, Olivia whispered. She always told me to trust my instincts. She said I had good judgment. But I ignored every red flag. I convinced myself that Daniel was different. Your mother would be proud of you. William's voice was firm. She would be proud that you had the courage to love even knowing the risk. She would be proud that you survived, and she would be furious at anyone who hurt her baby girl. He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice dropped to something dangerous. She would have done exactly what I did tonight, probably worse. Olivia almost laughed. Her mother had been the gentle one, the peacemaker, the woman who solved conflicts with kindness and diplomacy. But cross her children, and Elizabeth Blackwood became something else entirely. Remember when that boy in 7th grade spread rumors about me? Olivia said softly. Mom found out and called his mother. I never knew what she said, but that family moved to another state 2 weeks later. Your mother was very persuasive. William smiled at the memory. She once made a Fortune 500 CEO cry during a charity dinner because he made a joke about working mothers. I miss her so much. I know, sweetheart. I miss her too. The SUV pulled up to Hartford Medical Center's private entrance. Dr. Sarah Chen was already waiting with a wheelchair and a team of nurses. She had been the Blackwood family's personal physician for 15 years, and she took one look at Olivia's face before issuing rapid commands. Get her into exam room 3. I want a fetal monitor blood pressure and a full panel. Move. I can walk, Olivia protested weakly. You can sit. Dr. Chen's tone brooked no argument. You've been through enough tonight. Let us take care of you. William tried to follow, but Dr. Chen held up her hand. Family waiting room. Mr. Blackwood, I'll update you as soon as I know anything. That's my daughter and my granddaughter, which is exactly why you need to let me do my job without hovering. Dr. Chen's expression softened slightly. She's in good hands, I promise. William watched them wheel Olivia away, his jaw tight with helpless frustration. Marcus appeared at his elbow. Sir, we have a situation. What now? Daniel Sterling is at the front entrance. He followed us from the house. Security is holding him, but he's making a scene, demanding to see Olivia. William's expression went cold. He followed us. Apparently he borrowed his brother's car. He's been calling Olivia's broken phone repeatedly. When it went to voicemail, he decided to come in person. How did he know we'd be here? Hartford Medical is the only private hospital in the area with a maternity ward. It wasn't hard to guess. William straightened his coat. I'll handle this. Sir, perhaps I should... No. William's voice left no room for discussion. This is personal. He walked through the hospital corridors with the purposeful stride of a man who owned 3 buildings on this very block, which technically he did. The Blackwood Foundation had donated the entire pediatric wing. Daniel was in the lobby arguing with 2 security guards who looked like they were considering whether their jobs were worth the headache. You don't understand, Daniel was saying, his voice ragged. My wife is in there. She's pregnant with my child. I have a right to see her. Sir, you're not on the approved visitor list. We can't let you through. To hell with your list. Daniel tried to push past them. Olivia? Olivia, can you hear me? Mr. Sterling! Daniel spun around. William stood 10 feet away, hands clasped behind his back, radiating the kind of controlled fury that made powerful men nervous. Mr. Blackwood, Daniel's voice changed instantly, sliding from desperate to pleading. Please, I need to see her. I need to explain. Explain what exactly? William took a step closer. Explain why you cheated on my daughter for over a year. Explain why you got your mistress pregnant while your wife was trying to give you a child. Explain why you forced her to sign divorce papers while she stood for an hour, 7 months pregnant, while your family laughed. I made mistakes, I know that, but I love her. You don't know what love is. William's voice dropped to something quiet and terrifying. Love doesn't humiliate. Love doesn't betray. Love doesn't stand by while the person you promised to protect is called garbage and worthless by people who should have treated her like family. Your daughter lied to me. Daniel's desperation curdled into anger. For 3 years, she pretended to be someone she wasn't. How was I supposed to know you weren't supposed to know? William stepped closer, close enough that Daniel could see every line of rage on his face. That was the point. She wanted to be loved for who she was, not what she was worth. She gave you the gift of her true self without the complications of money and power and family legacy. And you threw it away. William's voice cracked like a whip. You threw away the most genuine love you will ever receive because you were too blind and too selfish to see what you had. Daniel's face contorted. She should have told me, if I had known who she was, what you would have treated her better. William laughed, and it was the most humorless sound Daniel had ever heard. That's exactly why she didn't tell you. Because she knew that you were the kind of man who only values people for what they can give you. That's not true. It is true. And deep down you know it. William turned to the security guards. This man is not to enter this hospital again. If he attempts to do so, call the police and have him arrested for trespassing. You can't do that. Daniel's voice rose. I have rights. That's my child she's carrying. You surrendered those rights when you signed the divorce papers. William's smile was ice. Or did you forget you were so eager to be free of my daughter that you didn't even read the custody clauses? Full custody to the mother. Visitation at her discretion. You signed it yourself, Mr. Sterling. Daniel's face went white. No, that's not I didn't. You didn't read what you were signing. William shook his head slowly. And you wonder why your architecture firm failed. You can't even manage basic due diligence. I want those papers back. I want to renegotiate. The papers are already filed. My legal team worked very efficiently while you were busy following us to the hospital. William checked his watch. The divorce will be finalized within 72 hours. Connecticut allows expedited processing for cases involving documented infidelity and hostile treatment of pregnant spouses. This isn't over. Daniel's voice shook with impotent rage. I'll fight this. I'll get a lawyer. With what money? William's question cut through Daniel's threats like a knife. Your firm is bankrupt. Your family's house is no longer yours. Your assets have been frozen pending the audit of your father's business practices. You couldn't afford a public defender, let alone someone capable of challenging my legal team. Daniel stood there, mouth opening and closing, no words coming out. William leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. Here's what's going to happen, Mr. Sterling. You're going to walk out of this hospital. You're going to go back to whatever's left of your family and figure out how to survive the consequences of your choices. And you are never going to contact my daughter again. And if I do, William smiled, then I'll stop being merciful. He turned and walked away, leaving Daniel standing in the lobby, watched by security guards, who no longer bothered to hide their contempt. 3 floors up, Olivia lay in a hospital bed, monitors beeping steadily around her. Dr. Chen had finished her examination and was reviewing the results with quiet efficiency. Good news, she said finally. The baby is perfectly healthy, strong heartbeat, normal movement, no signs of distress. Olivia sobbed with relief. Thank God. Thank God. Your blood pressure is elevated, which isn't surprising given what you've been through. I want to keep you overnight for observation. If everything looks stable in the morning, you can go home. Home? Olivia laughed weakly. I don't even know where home is anymore. Your father has already arranged for you to stay at the family estate. Dr. Chen patted her hand. Your old room is ready. He's been keeping it that way for 2 years just in case you came back. Fresh tears spilled down Olivia's cheeks. 2 years. Her father had kept her room ready for 2 years, waiting for a daughter who had cut him off without explanation, who had chosen a stranger's love over her own family. I don't deserve him, she whispered. That's not for you to decide. Dr. Chen smiled gently. Parents love unconditionally. It's what we do. The door opened and William stepped in, his face softening the moment he saw Olivia awake and alert. She's okay. He directed the question at Dr. Chen, but his eyes never left his daughter. She's fine. The baby's fine. They both just need rest. Then they'll rest. William pulled a chair to Olivia's bedside and sat down, taking her hand in his. I'm not going anywhere. Dad, you don't have to stay. I know you're busy. The company can wait. William squeezed her hand. You are more important than any merger, any deal, any amount of money. You always have been. Olivia's composure finally broke. She cried like she hadn't cried in years, mourning not just her failed marriage, but all the time she had lost with her father, all the moments she had missed, all the love she had pushed away because she was too proud to admit she needed it. William held her hand through all of it. He didn't tell her to stop crying. He didn't offer empty reassurances. He just sat there, steady and present, letting his daughter grieve. When the tears finally slowed, Olivia looked at her father with red-rimmed eyes. Daniel was downstairs, wasn't he? William's expression flickered. How did you know? I could hear him yelling. She almost smiled. The man never could control his temper when things didn't go his way. He's gone now. He won't bother you again. He'll try. Olivia shook her head. He'll wait until the shock wears off, and then he'll try to manipulate his way back in. It's what he does. It's what he's always done. Then we'll be ready for him. You can't protect me forever, Dad. Watch me. Despite everything, Olivia laughed. A real laugh surprised out of her by her father's fierce determination. I missed you, she said softly. I missed you so much, and I was too stubborn to admit it. I missed you too, sweetheart. William's voice was rough with emotion. Every day for 2 years. Every birthday, every holiday, every Sunday dinner. The house felt empty without you. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be here. William leaned forward and kissed her forehead. That's all I've ever wanted. Just for you to be here safe and loved. The baby kicked, and Olivia guided her father's hand to her belly. His face transformed as he felt his granddaughter move for the first time. Hello, little one, he whispered. I'm your grandfather, and I'm going to spoil you absolutely rotten. Dad. What? It's a grandparent's prerogative. William's eyes were suspiciously bright. Your mother would have been over the moon. She always wanted grandchildren. She used to talk about teaching them to bake her chocolate chip cookies. The ones with the secret ingredient. Cayenne pepper, just a pinch. William smiled at the memory. She said it gave them character. Olivia closed her eyes, exhaustion finally overwhelming her. Tell me about her, she murmured. Tell me the stories I've forgotten. So William talked. He told Olivia about how he met Elizabeth at a charity auction, how she had outbid him for a painting just to get his attention. He told her about their first date when Elizabeth ordered the most expensive item on the menu and then confessed she was allergic to shellfish. He told her about the day Olivia was born, How Elizabeth had held their daughter and cried and said she finally understood what her own mother meant about a love that could break you and make you whole at the same time. Olivia drifted off to sleep with her father's voice in her ears, dreaming of her mother's laugh and the smell of chocolate chip cookies with cayenne pepper. Across town, the Sterling house was in chaos. Margaret had finally stopped crying and started drinking. She sat in the living room that was no longer hers, surrounded by Christmas decorations that suddenly seemed obscene, working her way through a bottle of wine that cost more than they could now afford. "We need a plan," Robert said. He had been pacing for an hour, his mind racing through scenarios and contingencies. "There has to be a way to fight this. Blackwood can't just destroy our lives because his daughter got her feelings hurt." "He already did destroy our lives." Thomas slumped in an armchair staring at his phone. "I just got an email. Coastal Tech is restructuring my department. Effective immediately. They're offering 2 weeks severance." 2 weeks? Caroline's voice was shrill. "Thomas, we have bills. We have the car payment. I know what we have." Thomas threw his phone across the room. "You think I don't know? But what am I supposed to do? Fight a billionaire? Sue a man who probably has judges in his pocket? Where's Daniel?" Margaret looked around suddenly. "Where did he go?" "He took my car." Thomas laughed bitterly. "Didn't even ask. Just grabbed the keys and left, probably trying to chase down his billionaire wife and beg for forgiveness." "She's not his wife anymore." Robert's voice was hollow. "The divorce papers are filed. Marcus Chen told me before he left. Everything Daniel signed is legally binding." "But he didn't know what he was signing." Margaret set down her wine glass. "He was manipulated. That woman lied to him for 3 years. Surely that's grounds for—" "For what?" Robert turned on his wife with sudden fury. "She didn't lie. She just didn't tell him she was rich. There's no law against that. And even if there was, we don't have the money to fight it. We don't have the money to do anything. This is your fault." Margaret's finger jabbed at her husband. "You and your second mortgage. You told me we were fine. You told me we had savings." "I told you what you wanted to hear." Robert's voice cracked. "Because every time I tried to talk about money, you told me not to worry. You said Daniel's firm would take off. You said our social position would open doors. You said, 'Don't you dare blame this on me.' I'm not blaming you. I'm blaming all of us." Robert sat down heavily, his head in his hands. "We saw what we wanted to see. We treated that girl like dirt because we thought she was beneath us, and it turns out she could have bought and sold us 1,000 times over." The front door opened and Daniel walked in. His face was pale, his eyes red-rimmed, his expensive coat covered in snow. "What happened?" Margaret was on her feet instantly. "Did you see her? Did you talk to her?" "Security wouldn't let me in." Daniel's voice was dead. "Her father was there. He told me to leave." "And you just left?" Thomas's voice dripped with contempt. "The great Daniel Sterling beaten by a security guard. He told me the divorce is already filed." Daniel looked at his family. Really looked at them for the first time in hours. "It'll be finalized in 72 hours. I gave up full custody when I signed those papers. I didn't even read them. I was so eager to be done with her that I didn't read what I was signing." Margaret sat back down. "There has to be something we can do." "There's nothing." Daniel walked to the bar and poured himself a whiskey. "Blackwood has more lawyers than we have relatives. He has more money than we'll earn in 100 lifetimes. And he has every reason to want me destroyed." He drank the whiskey in one long swallow. "I threw away a billionaire's daughter. I threw away my own child. I threw away everything." He laughed, and it was the sound of a man watching his life collapse around him. "And the worst part, I did it for Victoria. I destroyed my marriage for a woman who was already planning her exit the moment she found out I was broke." "What do you mean?" Margaret's voice sharpened. "She left me. At the house right after you all went inside. She said she never planned to keep the baby. She said I was her ticket to a better life, and now that the ticket was worthless, She was cashing out. The room went silent. So that's it then. Robert's voice was barely above a whisper. We've lost everything. Our house, our jobs, our reputation. All because we were cruel to the wrong person. Not just cruel. Daniel stared into his empty glass. We were monsters. We made her stand for an hour while she was 7 months pregnant. We called her names. We laughed at her tears. We celebrated her pain like it was entertainment. He set down the glass with a heavy thunk. We deserve everything that's happening to us. Every single thing. Margaret opened her mouth to argue, but something in her son's face stopped her. For the first time in years, Daniel Sterling was telling the truth. Facing the reality of who he was and what he had done. What do we do now? Caroline whispered. Nobody answered. Because nobody knew. The snow kept falling outside, covering Hartford in white, making everything look peaceful and pure. But inside the Sterling house, there was no peace. Only the slow dawning horror of people who had finally seen themselves clearly, and didn't like what they saw. 3 days after Christmas, Olivia woke in her childhood bedroom to the sound of her phone ringing. Not her old phone, the one Margaret had shattered against the wall. A new one delivered by Marcus Chen, with a new number known only to family and trusted staff. She fumbled for it on the nightstand, her pregnant belly making every movement an effort. Hello, Ms. Blackwood. This is Jennifer Hayes from the Hartford Courier. We're running a story about your divorce from Daniel Sterling, and we'd love to get your comment on... Olivia hung up. The phone rang again immediately. Different number. Ms. Blackwood, this is Channel 8 News. Our viewers are fascinated by your story. Would you be willing to... She hung up again. Her bedroom door opened and William walked in, his face tight with concern. They found the new number. 2 calls in 30 seconds. Olivia sat up slowly, pressing her hand to her lower back. How did they get it? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. William took the phone from her hand. In the meantime, Marcus is handling all media inquiries. You don't have to talk to anyone. What are they saying about me? William hesitated. That hesitation told Olivia everything she needed to know. Show me. She held out her hand. Dad, I need to see. He pulled out his own phone and handed it to her. The screen showed a news article with the headline, Billionaire's Secret Daughter Destroys Husband's Family After Christmas Divorce. Olivia's stomach dropped. They're making me the villain. Some outlets are. William's voice was carefully neutral. Others are more sympathetic. The footage from the hospital lobby is helping. What footage? William tapped the screen, and a video began playing. Security camera footage from Hartford Medical Center, showing Daniel arguing with guards, yelling Olivia's name, being confronted by William. The audio was muffled, but clear enough to hear Daniel shouting, "She's my wife. I have a right to see her." And William's response, "You surrendered those rights when you forced your pregnant wife to sign divorce papers while your family laughed." The video had 3 million views. Oh, God. Olivia pressed her hand to her mouth. This is everywhere. It went viral overnight. William sat on the edge of her bed. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I should have been more careful. I didn't realize there were cameras. No, it's not. Olivia shook her head. I'm not upset about the video. I'm upset because now everyone knows. Everyone knows who I am. Everyone knows what happened. I can't just be Olivia anymore. I'm Olivia Blackwood, the billionaire's daughter who married a cheater. You're also Olivia Blackwood, the woman who stood up for herself, the woman who walked away with dignity, the woman who's about to be a mother. Is that how people see it? Read the comments. Olivia scrolled down, her heart pounding. She expected mockery, judgment, accusations that she had entrapped Daniel or manipulated the situation. Instead, she found something else entirely. That poor woman, 7 months pregnant, and they made her stand for an hour. Daniel Sterling is garbage, absolute garbage. The way her father protected her. That's what real family looks like. Team Olivia all the way. Get that man. Tears blurred Olivia's vision. They don't hate me. Why would they hate you? William took back his phone. You did nothing wrong. You loved someone who didn't deserve you. That's not a crime, that's being human. The baby kicked, and Olivia placed both hands on her belly. What about the Sterlings? What are they saying? William's expression hardened. Margaret tried to give an interview to Channel 4 this morning. She wanted to tell their side of the story. And the interview was canceled when the station realized Blackwell Industries owns their parent company. William's smile was cold. She's been calling other outlets, but word travels fast. No reputable organization wants to anger me by giving her a platform. Dad, you can't silence them forever. I don't need forever. I just need long enough for the truth to speak louder than their lies. A knock at the door interrupted them. Marcus Chen stepped in his face grave. Sir, we have a situation. Victoria Reyes just sold her story to the Daily Mail. Olivia's blood ran cold. What story? Marcus handed William a tablet. It's scheduled to publish in 2 hours. I managed to get an advance copy from our contacts. William read silently, his face growing darker with each passing second. When he looked up, his eyes were blazing. She's claiming Olivia knew about the affair, that she gave Daniel permission to sleep with other women because she couldn't satisfy him. That's a lie. Olivia's voice cracked. How can she say that? She's being paid $200,000 for the exclusive. Marcus's voice was flat with disgust. Apparently that's the going rate for defamation these days. Can we stop it? William demanded. Legally, no. Not before publication. But we can respond. And we can make her regret ever opening her mouth. Olivia's hands were shaking. What does that mean? Marcus looked at her directly. Ms. Blackwood, do you remember the paternity test Daniel demanded 2 months ago? Of course. It was humiliating. He made me go to a clinic while his family watched like I was some kind of criminal. The results proved your baby is Daniel's. Marcus paused. But during that process, Victoria also had a paternity test, routine procedure when there are multiple pregnancies involved in a divorce. Olivia's heart stopped. And Daniel Sterling is not the father of Victoria's baby. The words hung in the air like a bomb waiting to detonate. What? Olivia grabbed the edge of her bed for support. That's impossible. They were having an affair for over a year. They were. Marcus's expression didn't change. But Victoria was also having an affair with someone else, Daniel's brother Thomas. Olivia thought she might vomit. Thomas Daniel's own brother. The DNA test is conclusive. We've had it independently verified 3 times. Marcus pulled out another document. Victoria's child is not a Sterling through Daniel. It's a Sterling through Thomas. Does Daniel know? Not yet. We were waiting for the right moment to release this information. Marcus looked at William. I believe that moment has arrived. William's smile was the kind that made empires tremble. Make it happen. By the time her Daily Mail story goes live, every news outlet in the country should have this document. Let's see how her story holds up when everyone knows she was sleeping with both brothers. Dad. Olivia grabbed his arm. Is this really necessary? She's pregnant. The baby is innocent. The baby is innocent. William's voice softened slightly. But Victoria made her choice when she decided to profit from lies about you. I'm simply making sure the truth is told alongside her fiction. He leaned down and kissed Olivia's forehead. Rest. Let me handle this. By tonight, Victoria Reyes will wish she had never heard the Blackwood name. He left with Marcus, and Olivia sat alone in her childhood bedroom, trying to process everything she had just learned. Victoria and Thomas, Daniel's mistress, and Daniel's brother. The betrayal ran so much deeper than she had ever imagined. Her phone buzzed with a text from a number she didn't recognize. Please, I need to talk to you. It's urgent. Daniel. She deleted it without responding. 2 hours later, the news exploded. Victoria's Daily Mail story went live at noon, painting Olivia as a frigid wife who had driven Daniel into another woman's arms. It was full of intimate details that could only have come from Daniel himself, stories about their marriage, their arguments, their bedroom life. It was humiliating. It was cruel. And it lasted exactly 47 minutes before the counter-story broke. Shocking mistress's baby belongs to husband's brother, DNA test reveals. The headline swept across every major news outlet within an hour. The story detailed Victoria's affair with Thomas Sterling, the DNA evidence, and the fact that Daniel had spent over a year believing he was the father of a child that wasn't his. Olivia watched the chaos unfold from her bedroom, her laptop balanced on her pregnant belly. Margaret Sterling released a statement denying everything. It was picked apart by commenters within minutes. Thomas Sterling's wife Caroline filed for divorce before the sun set. The news of her filing added another layer to the scandal. And Daniel Sterling, the man at the center of all of it, went silent. His social media accounts were deleted. His phone went straight to voicemail. He vanished from public view entirely. "Where do you think he went?" Olivia asked her father that evening over dinner. "I don't know and I don't care." William passed her the bread basket. "He's no longer your problem. Let him deal with the consequences of his choices." He must be devastated, finding out about Victoria and Thomas like that. "Are you feeling sorry for him?" Olivia considered the question carefully. "No, but I remember what it felt like to discover I'd been betrayed. It breaks something inside you, something that never fully heals. He broke something inside you first." "I know." Olivia looked down at her belly. "But this isn't about revenge anymore, Dad. It's about protecting my daughter, making sure she grows up in a world where her mother chose healing over hatred." William reached across the table and took her hand. "Your mother would be so proud of you right now." "Really? Even after everything that happened? Especially after everything that happened?" William squeezed her fingers. "She always said the measure of a person isn't how they act when things are easy. It's how they act when things are impossibly hard. And you, sweetheart, are handling the impossible with more grace than anyone I've ever known." Olivia's eyes filled with tears. "I don't feel graceful. I feel tired and scared and so angry I could scream." "Then scream." William smiled. "These walls are thick. I promise no one will hear." Despite everything, Olivia laughed. 4 days later, Olivia's world shifted again. She was in the library reading a book about newborn care when Marcus appeared in the doorway. "Ms. Blackwood, you have a visitor. If it's another reporter, tell them. It's not a reporter." Marcus's expression was unreadable. "It's Margaret Sterling." Olivia's book fell from her hands. "Margaret is here in this house. She's in the foyer. Security has her contained, but she's refusing to leave until she speaks with you." What could she possibly want? She says she needs to apologize. Olivia laughed, but there was no humor in it. Margaret Sterling doesn't apologize, not to anyone, and certainly not to someone she called a gold-digging nobody. That's what I told her. She started crying. Marcus paused. I believe the tears were genuine. Olivia struggled to her feet, one hand on her belly. "Where's my father?" "In a board meeting downtown. I can call him if you'd like." "No." Olivia took a deep breath. "I'll see her, but stay close. Always Ms. Blackwood." Margaret Sterling looked like she had aged 10 years in the past week. Her designer clothes hung loose on her frame. Her hair, usually perfectly styled, was pulled back in a messy bun. Her makeup couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes or the tremor in her hands. "Olivia." Margaret's voice cracked on the name. "Thank you for seeing me." "I haven't decided if I'm seeing you yet." Olivia kept her distance, Marcus positioned between them like a wall. "Why are you here?" "I needed to..." Margaret's voice broke. She pressed her hand to her mouth, struggling for composure. "I needed to tell you how sorry I am. For everything. For what I said, what I did, how I treated you." Sorry, because you mean it. Or sorry because your life is falling apart. Margaret flinched like she'd been slapped. Both. I'm sorry for both. That's honest, at least. I know you have no reason to believe me. Margaret took a step forward, and Marcus shifted in warning. She stopped immediately, hands raised. I know I was cruel. I was vicious. I was everything a mother-in-law should never be. You called me garbage. Olivia's voice was ice. You made me stand for an hour while I was 7 months pregnant. You threw my phone against a wall. You laughed while I cried. I know. You called my daughter a trap. You accused me of adultery. You celebrated the destruction of my marriage like it was a party game. I know. Margaret's tears were flowing freely now. I know what I did. I've had nothing but time to think about it this past week. Every night I close my eyes and I see your face. The way you looked at us when we were laughing. The way you held your belly like you were trying to protect your baby from us. She sobbed openly, her composure completely shattered. I was a monster. I was so convinced you were after our money, so certain you were beneath us, that I never stopped to see you as a person. I never asked about your family or your dreams, or why you loved my son. I just decided who you were and made your life hell for 3 years. Why? Olivia demanded. Why did you hate me so much? Because you made Daniel happy. The words came out in a rush. Because when he was with you, he didn't need me anymore. He didn't call for advice or ask for help or depend on me the way he used to. You gave him something I couldn't, and I resented you for it. Olivia stared at her former mother-in-law, seeing her clearly for the first time. Not as a villain, but as a deeply insecure woman who had weaponized her son's love to feel important. That's not an excuse, Olivia said finally. I know it's not. There is no excuse. Margaret wiped her face with trembling hands. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. I see what I did. And if I could take it back. You can't. I know. Margaret's voice dropped to a whisper. But I had to try. I had to tell you that I'm sorry. Even if you never forgive me, I needed you to know. Olivia was silent for a long moment. Then she turned to Marcus. Give us a minute. Ms. Blackwood, I don't think... I'll be fine. Just wait outside the door. Marcus hesitated, then nodded, and stepped out. The door clicked shut behind him. Margaret looked at Olivia with something like hope in her eyes. I'm not going to forgive you. Olivia's voice was calm, almost gentle. Not today. Maybe not ever. What you did to me can't be erased by tears and apologies. Margaret's face crumpled. But I'm also not going to carry hatred for you in my heart. Olivia placed her hand on her belly. My daughter is going to be born soon, and I want her to come into a world where her mother chose peace over revenge. Where her mother was strong enough to let go of anger even when that anger was justified. What does that mean? It means I'm done with you. Olivia's eyes met Margaret steadily. I don't want to see you again. I don't want to hear from you again. You're not part of my daughter's life, and you never will be. But I'm releasing you from my anger. I'm choosing to move forward. Margaret nodded slowly, tears still streaming down her face. That's more than I deserve. Yes, it is. Olivia turned away. Marcus will show you out. Goodbye, Margaret. Olivia. Margaret's voice stopped her at the door. For what it's worth, I was wrong about you. You're not a gold digger. You're not worthless. You're one of the strongest women I've ever met, and my son was a fool to let you go. Olivia didn't respond. She just walked away, leaving Margaret Sterling standing alone in the Blackwood foyer, surrounded by wealth she could never touch and forgiveness she had never earned. That night, Olivia went into labor 3 weeks early. The contractions started at dinner, subtle enough that she thought they were just Braxton Hicks. By midnight, they were strong enough to make her cry out. By 2 in the morning, she was in the delivery room at Hartford Medical, her father holding one hand, and Dr. Chen commanding a team of nurses with military precision. "You're doing great, sweetheart." William's voice was steady, but his face was pale. "Just breathe. In and out. In and out." "Dad!" Olivia gripped his hand so hard she was afraid she might break his fingers. "I'm scared." "I know, but you're the bravest person I know." He brushed hair from her sweaty forehead. "Your mother was terrified when she had you. She squeezed my hand so hard I couldn't feel my fingers for a week. But then you were born, and she said it was all worth it. Every second of pain, every moment of fear. Worth it for you." Another contraction hit, and Olivia screamed. "Almost there," Dr. Chen called. "One more push, Olivia. Give me one more big push." Olivia pushed with everything she had. She pushed through the pain and the fear and the exhaustion. She pushed for her daughter, for her mother, for the future she was determined to build from the ashes of her past. And at 3:47 in the morning, on December 30th, Grace Elizabeth Blackwood entered the world screaming. "She's perfect." Dr. Chen placed the baby on Olivia's chest. "Absolutely perfect." Olivia looked down at her daughter, at this tiny red-faced creature who had just changed everything. Grace had a shock of dark hair, a button nose, and lungs that could wake the entire hospital. "Hello, baby girl." Olivia's voice broke on every word. "Hello, my beautiful Grace. I'm your mama." Grace stopped crying. Her eyes, still unfocused, seemed to search for the source of her mother's voice. And then, impossibly miraculously, she settled against Olivia's chest, with a tiny sigh of contentment. William leaned over them both, tears streaming down his face. "She has your mother's eyes," he whispered. "Oh God, Olivia, she has Elizabeth's eyes." Olivia looked at her daughter, really looked, and saw what her father saw. The shape of the eyes, the set of the brow. Her mother's face reflected in her daughter's features. "Mom," Olivia whispered. "Mom, I wish you could see her." And in that moment, despite everything she had lost and everything she had suffered, Olivia felt complete. She had her daughter. She had her father. She had a family that loved her unconditionally. She had survived. And that was enough. In a cramped apartment across town, Daniel Sterling sat alone in the dark, staring at his phone. He had just received a text from his mother. The baby was born. A girl. Grace Elizabeth Blackwood. He read the message 3 times. Then he threw his phone against the wall, watching it shatter the same way Margaret had shattered Olivia's phone on Christmas Eve. Grace Elizabeth Blackwood. Not Sterling. Blackwood. His daughter would never carry his name, would never know him as her father, would grow up in a world of privilege and wealth that he could never provide. He had lost everything, and he had no one to blame but himself. 6 weeks after Grace was born, Olivia received a letter. Not an email, not a text. An actual handwritten letter delivered to the Blackwood estate by certified mail. The return address made her hands tremble. Daniel Sterling, 847 Oak Street, Apartment 3B, Hartford, CT. "You don't have to open it." William stood beside her in the library, his jaw tight. "I can have Marcus handle whatever this is." "No." Olivia turned the envelope over in her hands. "I need to see what he has to say." She opened it carefully, as if the paper itself might be dangerous. Inside was a single sheet covered in Daniel's familiar handwriting. The same handwriting that had once written her love notes and signed their marriage certificate. "Dear Olivia," she read aloud, "I know I have no right to contact you. I know I don't deserve your time or your attention. But I'm begging you, please let me see Grace. Just once. Just for 5 minutes. I need to see my daughter. I need to know she's real. I need to tell her I'm sorry for what I did to her mother. Please. I'm begging you. Daniel." William's face hardened. "He's manipulating you." "Maybe." Olivia folded the letter carefully. Or maybe he's genuinely suffering. He should suffer, after what he did. Dad. Olivia looked up at her father with tired eyes. I'm not going to let him see Grace. Not now, maybe not ever. But I can't pretend he doesn't exist. He's her biological father. Someday she's going to ask about him, and you'll tell her the truth. I will. But I want the truth to be that I gave him a chance to be better, and he couldn't do it. Not that I shut him out completely and never let him try. William sat down heavily. You're too kind, Olivia. It's going to get you hurt again. Kindness isn't weakness, Dad. Mom taught me that. The mention of Elizabeth silenced William. He looked at his daughter, at the woman she had become, and saw his wife's spirit shining through. What do you want to do? Olivia thought about it for a long moment. I want to meet him. Not at the house. Somewhere neutral. Somewhere safe. Absolutely not. Dad, you're not meeting that man alone. If you insist on seeing him, I'm coming with you, and Marcus, and security. That's not a meeting. That's an ambush. Then it's an ambush. William's voice left no room for argument. You can have your conversation, but you're not doing it without protection. I won't lose you again, Olivia. Not to him. Not to anyone. Olivia reached out and took her father's hand. Okay, we'll do it your way. 3 days later, they met at a coffee shop in downtown Hartford. Not one of the trendy places that catered to young professionals, but a quiet establishment that had been serving the community for 40 years. Neutral territory, as Olivia had requested. Daniel was already there when they arrived. He sat alone at a corner table, looking nothing like the confident architect who had demanded a divorce on Christmas Eve. His clothes were wrinkled. He had lost weight. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his hands shook as he lifted his coffee cup. He stood when he saw Olivia, and his eyes went immediately to the carrier in her arms. Is that her? His voice cracked. Is that Grace? Olivia stopped 3 feet away, Marcus positioned between them like a wall. You can look, you can't touch. Daniel's face crumpled, but he nodded. He leaned forward just slightly and gazed at his daughter for the first time. Grace was sleeping, her tiny fist pressed against her cheek, her dark hair peeking out from under a pink hat. She's beautiful. Daniel's voice was barely a whisper. Olivia. She's so beautiful. She is. She has your nose and your chin. He laughed weakly. She doesn't look anything like me. She has your ears. The words came out before Olivia could stop them. And your hands, long fingers. The doctor said she might be a piano player. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry. For everything. For the affair, for the divorce, for what my family did to you. I was wrong. I was so wrong about everything. Yes, you were. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I don't deserve to be her father. He looked at Grace with naked longing. But I want to try. I want to be better. Not for you, not even for me. For her. Olivia sat down across from him, keeping the carrier close to her chest. Why should I believe you? You shouldn't. Daniel met her eyes directly. I've given you no reason to trust me. I lied. I cheated. I let my family destroy you while I stood by and did nothing. I'm not asking you to believe me based on my past. I'm asking you to let me prove it with my future. And how exactly do you plan to do that? You have no job, no money, no home. I got a job. Daniel's voice steadied slightly. It's not much. I'm working at a hardware store on the south side. $8 an hour, 40 hours a week. But it's honest work. A hardware store? Olivia couldn't hide her surprise. You have a degree in architecture. Nobody will hire an architect whose firm went bankrupt and whose name is all over the news for cheating on a billionaire's daughter. Daniel laughed bitterly. I walked into 15 firms with my portfolio. They all said the same thing. We can't risk the association. I'm sorry. Don't be. I deserve it. Daniel looked at Grace again. But she doesn't deserve a father who gives up. So I took what I could get. I'm working my way up, saving money, taking night classes to update my certification. Night classes. Community college. They have a program for returning professionals. He shrugged. It's not Harvard, but it's something. Olivia studied him carefully. The man sitting across from her was not the same man who had handed her divorce papers on Christmas Eve. That man had been arrogant, cold, certain of his own superiority. This man was broken, humbled, stripped of every pretension he had ever held. What happened to Victoria? Daniel flinched at the name. She left, right after the DNA results came out. She moved to California with some guy she met online. I heard she lost the baby. Lost it. Miscarriage. 2 weeks after she left. Daniel's voice was hollow. I know I should feel something about that. Thomas's baby, not mine, but still. A baby. But I just feel numb. And Thomas. Caroline took him for everything in the divorce. He's living in my parents' basement, drinking himself to sleep every night. Daniel shook his head. My mother tried to get him help. He told her to go to hell. What about your parents? They're surviving. Barely. Daniel's hands tightened around his coffee cup. Dad's pension was frozen during the audit. They're living off Social Security and whatever Mom can make selling her jewelry. The house is gone, of course. Blackwell Properties sold it to a developer. They're tearing it down next month to build condos. Olivia felt a strange twist in her chest. Not sympathy exactly, but something close to it. I didn't ask my father to do any of that. I know. Daniel met her eyes. He did it because he loves you. Because we hurt you. I understand that now. I understand a lot of things I didn't understand before. Grace stirred in her carrier, making the small sounds that meant she was about to wake up. Olivia automatically began rocking her body, responding to her daughter's needs, without conscious thought. What do you want, Daniel, really? I want to be part of her life. His voice broke. Not full custody, not even visitation rights. Just something. A picture now and then. A phone call on her birthday. The chance to watch her grow up even from a distance. And what do I get? What do you mean? Every relationship is a transaction, Daniel. You taught me that. Olivia's voice was steady. You want access to Grace. What are you offering in return? Daniel was silent for a long moment. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded document. My lawyer drew this up. What's left of my lawyer anyway? A public defender who owed me a favor. He slid the paper across the table. It's a formal statement accepting full responsibility for the dissolution of our marriage. It documents my affair, Victoria's pregnancy, the way my family treated you during the divorce proceedings. Everything. Olivia picked up the document, scanning its contents. Why would you sign something like this? Because it's the truth. Daniel's jaw tightened. And because you deserve to have it in writing. For Grace, for the courts, for whatever you need. This could be used against you in any future custody dispute. I know. You're giving up any legal leverage you might have had. I know. Daniel leaned forward. Olivia, I'm not trying to fight you. I'm not trying to manipulate you or trick you or gain some advantage. I'm trying to show you that I've changed, that I understand what I did was wrong, that I'm willing to sacrifice whatever it takes to prove it. Olivia looked at the document for a long time. Then she looked at her sleeping daughter. Then she looked at the man who had broken her heart. I need to think about this. Take all the time you need. It might be months. It might be years. I'll wait. You might wait forever and still get nothing. Then I'll wait forever. Daniel's voice cracked. She's my daughter, Olivia. The only good thing I ever created. Even if I never get to hold her, never get to hear her call me Dad, I'll spend the rest of my life trying to deserve her. Grace woke up. then her eyes opening to reveal the color that William said matched Elizabeth's. She looked around with the unfocused curiosity of an infant, then fixed her gaze on Daniel. For a moment, father and daughter stared at each other. Then Grace smiled. It was probably just gas. She was only 6 weeks old, too young for real smiles. But it felt like something more, like recognition, like possibility. Daniel started to cry. "Thank you." He wiped his face with trembling hands. "Thank you for letting me see her. You didn't have to do that." "No, I didn't." "But you did anyway." He looked at Olivia with something like wonder. "Even after everything I did, you're still willing to show kindness." "It's not kindness." Olivia stood gathering Grace's carrier. "It's setting an example. Someday my daughter is going to face people who hurt her. And when she does, I want her to know that strength isn't about revenge. It's about choosing who you want to be, regardless of how others treat you." She paused at the table, looking down at the man she had once loved. "Goodbye, Daniel. I'll be in touch." She walked out of the coffee shop without looking back. That night, Olivia sat in the nursery feeding Grace while the moon rose outside the window. William found her there, lost in thought, her daughter nursing peacefully at her breast. "How did it go?" "Better than I expected." Olivia adjusted Grace's position. "Worse than I hoped." "Those sound like the same thing." "They're not." Olivia looked at her father. "He's changed, Dad. I don't know if it's genuine or if it's just desperation, but he's not the same man who handed me those divorce papers." "Leopards don't change their spots." "No, but people aren't leopards." Olivia stroked Grace's dark hair. "People can grow. People can learn. People can look at themselves honestly and decide to be different." "You sound like you're defending him." "I'm not defending him. I'm acknowledging reality." Olivia sighed. "He's her father. That's a biological fact I can't change. And someday she's going to want to know about him. I'd rather be able to tell her that I gave him a chance to be better than tell her I shut him out completely." William sat down in the rocking chair across from her. "What are you going to do?" "Nothing. For now." Olivia burped Grace gently against her shoulder. "I told him I needed time to think. That could mean months or years. I'm not going to rush this decision just because he's suffering." "Good. But Dad..." Olivia met her father's eyes. "I need you to promise me something. Anything. Stop destroying him." William's face hardened. "Olivia." "I mean it. The audit of his father's pension. The pressure on companies not to hire him. The systematic dismantling of everything the Sterling family ever had." Olivia's voice was firm. "It needs to stop. They hurt you. And they've paid for it. More than paid." Olivia shook her head. "Thomas is an alcoholic. Robert is facing criminal charges for things he probably didn't even do. Margaret is selling jewelry to pay rent. Daniel is working at a hardware store for $8 an hour. They deserve worse. Maybe they do. But Grace doesn't deserve a legacy of revenge." Olivia held her daughter closer. "I don't want her growing up in a world where her family destroys people who wrong them. I don't want her to learn that power means cruelty. I want her to learn that power means having the ability to hurt someone and choosing not to." William was silent for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough. "You're asking me to let them go. After everything they did. I'm asking you to let me move forward." Olivia reached out and took her father's hand. "The best revenge isn't destruction, Dad. It's living well. It's being happy. It's building a beautiful life and never looking back." William squeezed her fingers, and Olivia saw tears in his eyes. "Your mother said the same thing to me once. When we were first starting out before the company took off, a competitor tried to destroy us. Spread lies, stole clients, nearly bankrupted us. I wanted to crush him." "What did Mom say?" She said that hate is a poison you drink hoping the other person will die. William smiled sadly. She said the only way to truly win was to succeed so completely that our enemies became irrelevant. Was she right? She was always right. William laughed softly. That competitor. He went out of business 5 years later. Not because I destroyed him, because he destroyed himself trying to keep up with someone who wasn't even paying attention to him anymore. Grace finished nursing, and Olivia shifted her to the other side. So you'll stop? I'll stop. William's voice was reluctant but sincere. The audit, the blacklisting, all of it. I'll let the Sterlings sink or swim on their own merits. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. William stood leaning down to kiss Grace's head. If Daniel ever hurts you again, if any of them ever comes near you with bad intentions, I won't hesitate. Father's prerogative. I know, Dad. Good. He kissed Olivia's forehead. Now get some sleep. You have a board meeting tomorrow. Board meeting. Blackwell Industries. William smiled. You're the sole heir, remember? Time to start learning the business you'll someday run. He left Olivia alone with her daughter, both of them wrapped in moonlight and the promise of a future that finally felt possible. 2 months later, the news broke. Robert Sterling had been cleared of all charges. The audit had found nothing criminal in his accounting practices. Some irregularities, yes, some questionable decisions, but nothing that warranted prosecution. The case was dropped. The pension unfrozen, the threat of criminal charges evaporated overnight. Olivia found out from Marcus, who delivered the news with barely concealed disappointment. We could have pushed harder. There were gray areas that could have been exploited. I told my father to stop. Olivia didn't look up from the spreadsheet she was studying. This is what stopping looks like. Mr. Blackwood agreed to this. He did. Marcus was silent for a moment. May I ask why? Because revenge is exhausting. Olivia finally looked up. And because I have better things to do with my time than destroy people who are already destroying themselves. As if to prove her point, the next week brought news that Thomas Sterling had been arrested for drunk driving. He had crashed his brother's car, the same car Daniel had borrowed to follow Olivia to the hospital, into a telephone pole at 3 a.m. No one was hurt except Thomas himself, who broke his collarbone and earned himself 60 days in county jail. Margaret Sterling was photographed leaving the jail after posting bail. She looked like a ghost of the woman who had once commanded Hartford's charity circuit like a queen. Olivia saw the photos online and felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not pity, just nothing. The Sterlings had ceased to matter to her. They were characters from a story she had finished reading, their fates no longer connected to her own. She had a company to learn, a daughter to raise, a life to build. Everything else was noise. Spring came slowly to Connecticut that year, winter clinging with desperate fingers to every patch of ice and snow. But eventually the sun won, as it always did, and by April the Blackwood estate was blooming with flowers that Elizabeth had planted decades ago. Olivia walked through the gardens with Grace in her arms, showing her daughter the roses and lilies and tulips that had been her own childhood companions. Your grandmother planted these, she told Grace, knowing the baby couldn't understand but saying it anyway. She said flowers were proof that beautiful things could grow from dirt and darkness. She said that's what hope looks like. Grace gurgled happily, reaching for a butterfly that danced just out of reach. You're going to be like her, you know. Olivia kissed her daughter's cheek. Strong and kind and brave. You're going to face hard things, and you're going to survive them. And someday, you're going to plant flowers of your own. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, a text from a number she had learned to recognize. I got a promotion, assistant manager. I know it's not much, but I wanted you to know. Daniel. Olivia looked at the message for a long moment. Then she typed back, Congratulations. It was the first time she had responded to any of his messages. A moment later, her phone buzzed again. Thank you. For everything. For Grace. for giving me a reason to keep trying." Olivia didn't respond to that one, but she didn't delete it either. She tucked her phone away and continued walking through the garden, her daughter in her arms, her mother's flowers blooming all around her. The past was the past. The future was waiting. And for the first time in longer than she could remember, Olivia Blackwood was ready to meet it. 5 years passed like water through open fingers. Grace Blackwood took her first steps in the garden her grandmother had planted. She spoke her first word, "Mama," in the library where Olivia had learned to read. She celebrated her first birthday, her second, her third, her fourth, her fifth, surrounded by love that wrapped around her like armor against a world that could be so cruel. And through it all, Daniel Sterling kept his distance. He sent birthday cards, Christmas presents, letters that Olivia read but never answered, photos of his small apartment, his modest car, the garden he had started on his balcony because he remembered Olivia once saying she loved flowers. He never pushed, never demanded, never threatened legal action or tried to force his way into Grace's life. He just waited. Olivia watched him from afar through the reports Marcus provided and the occasional news article about the former architect who had reinvented himself as a contractor specializing in affordable housing. The same dream he had talked about on their first date, finally being pursued without the ego that had poisoned everything he touched. "He's building houses for Habitat for Humanity," Marcus reported one afternoon. "Volunteering on weekends, teaching construction skills to at-risk youth." Good for him. He's also engaged. Olivia's hands paused over her keyboard. Engaged to a woman named Sarah Mitchell, elementary school teacher, divorced one son. They met at a volunteer event 6 months ago. "Do you have a picture?" Marcus handed her his tablet. Olivia studied the photo of Daniel standing beside a woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. He looked different. Older, yes, but also lighter somehow. Like a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. "She looks nice." Background check came back clean. No criminal record, no outstanding debts, no concerning associations. She seems genuinely good. Then I'm happy for him. Olivia handed back the tablet. Everyone deserves a second chance. Marcus hesitated. "There's something else." "What?" "He's written to you again. This time, asking permission to tell Sarah about Grace. He wants to be honest with her before the wedding." Olivia leaned back in her chair. 5 years ago, this news would have destroyed her. The thought of Daniel moving on, finding happiness with someone else, building a new family. But now she felt only a distant relief. Tell him he can share whatever he needs to share. Olivia turned back to her computer. Grace is his daughter too. Even if he's never been part of her life, he has the right to acknowledge she exists. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." 2 weeks later, Olivia received a letter. Not from Daniel. From Sarah Mitchell. "Dear Ms. Blackwood." The letter began. "Daniel has told me everything. About your marriage, about the divorce, about Grace. I know I have no right to contact you, but I felt compelled to write. Daniel is not the same man who hurt you. He carries the weight of what he did every single day. He talks about Grace with such love and such regret. He keeps every birthday card he's ever sent, even though he knows she's never seen them. I don't know if you can ever forgive him. I don't know if you should. But I wanted you to know that he's trying, really trying. And if there's ever a day when you feel ready to let Grace meet her father, I promise I'll do everything in my power to make sure he's worthy of that gift. With respect, Sarah Mitchell." Olivia read the letter 3 times. Then she folded it carefully and placed it in the drawer where she kept all of Daniel's correspondence. That night, she found Grace in the nursery playing with dolls on the floor. At 5 years old, her daughter was a perfect blend of both parents. Daniel's long fingers, Olivia's nose, Elizabeth's eyes. She was curious and kind and fierce in the way only children can be, fierce, ready to fight dragons and rescue princesses and demand answers to questions the world wasn't ready to give. "Mama." Grace looked up as Olivia sat down beside her. Why don't I have a daddy? The question hit Olivia like a punch to the chest. They had discussed this before in simple terms, appropriate for Grace's age. But this was different. This was Grace asking not for information, but for understanding. You do have a daddy, sweetheart. Olivia pulled Grace into her lap. His name is Daniel. Where is he? He lives far away, in another part of the city. Why doesn't he live with us? Olivia took a deep breath. Because Mama and Daddy couldn't be married anymore. Sometimes grown-ups make choices that hurt each other and they have to live apart. Did Daddy hurt you? Yes, baby, he did. Grace was quiet for a moment, processing this information with the gravity only a child could bring to such matters. Does he love me? Very much. Olivia's voice cracked. He sends you cards every birthday and presents every Christmas. He writes letters asking about you. He thinks about you every day. Then why doesn't he come see me? Because Mama wasn't ready to let him, because I was scared he might hurt you the way he hurt me. Are you still scared? Olivia looked at her daughter, at this small, fierce human who had become the center of her universe. I don't know anymore. Grace nodded seriously. Maybe you should find out. Maybe I should. The next morning, Olivia called Marcus into her office. I want to meet Daniel. Marcus's expression didn't change. When? This week, before I lose my nerve. Location. His place. I want to see how he lives, who he's become. That's unusual. Most people prefer neutral territory. I'm not most people. Olivia squared her shoulders. Arrange it. And Marcus, I'm going alone. Ms. Blackwood, I strongly advise. I know what you advise, but this is something I need to do by myself. If I can't face Daniel Sterling without bodyguards, then I haven't really healed at all. Marcus studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. I'll make the arrangements. Daniel's apartment was small but clean. Third floor of an older building reached by a staircase that creaked with every step. When Olivia knocked, her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. The door opened. Daniel stood there in jeans and a faded t-shirt, looking nothing like the polished architect who had once lectured her about ambition and success. His hair was shorter. His face was lined in ways it hadn't been 5 years ago. But his eyes were the same, and when he saw Olivia, they filled with tears. You came. I came. He stepped back to let her enter, his movements careful, like he was afraid any sudden gesture might scare her away. Can I get you something? Water, coffee? I think I have tea somewhere. Water is fine. She waited in the small living room while he disappeared into the kitchen. The walls were covered with photos. Daniel at construction sites. Daniel with groups of young people in hard hats. Daniel and Sarah at various events, smiling at the camera with the easy comfort of people who actually liked each other. And in the corner on a shelf by itself, a framed photo of Grace. It was from her 3rd birthday party. Olivia had posted it on a private family account, never knowing Daniel had somehow gotten access. That was the only one I could find, Daniel said, returning with a glass of water. I hope you don't mind. I just wanted something to look at when I missed her. You hacked my account? I paid a tech kid $50 to show me how to see private posts. Daniel's laugh was self-deprecating. Not my proudest moment, but I was desperate. Olivia took the water but didn't drink it. Sarah wrote to me. I know, she told me afterward. Daniel sat down across from her, leaving plenty of space between them. Was that okay? I should have asked her not to contact you, but she's stubborn. Once she decides to do something, there's no stopping her. She sounds like someone I might like. You would. You'd like her a lot. Daniel's voice was soft. She's nothing like Victoria. Nothing like my mother. She's just good. Genuinely good. I didn't know people like that existed until I met her. People like what? People who love without conditions, without expectations, without keeping score. He met Olivia's eyes. Like you were, before I destroyed it. I wasn't perfect, Daniel. No, But you were real. You were honest. You loved me for who I was, not who you wanted me to be. His voice cracked. I didn't know how rare that was. I didn't know how precious. I threw it away because I was too stupid and too proud to see what I had. Is that why you're here? In this apartment, working construction instead of designing buildings. I'm here because this is what I deserve. Daniel looked around his modest home. For 20 years I chased prestige. I wanted to be important. I wanted people to look at me and be impressed. And when I couldn't achieve that on my own, I blamed everyone else. My partners, my clients, you. He leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. But the truth is, I failed because I was a bad architect. Not technically, I could draw a nice building, but I didn't listen to clients. I didn't collaborate with contractors. I thought I knew better than everyone, and I drove away every person who tried to help me. That sounds like the Daniel I knew. It was. He smiled sadly. But I'm not that person anymore. These past 5 years working with my hands building things that actually matter, it changed me. I wake up every morning knowing I'm going to help someone. I go to bed every night tired but satisfied. I don't need people to be impressed. I just need to know I did something good. That's quite a transformation. It is. Daniel's eyes met hers. And I have you to thank for it. Me. You and your father destroyed my old life. At the time I hated you for it. I blamed you for everything. But now I understand that you freed me. You forced me to become someone new because the old Daniel Sterling no longer had anywhere to hide. Olivia set down her water glass. I didn't come here to hear your redemption story. I know. Daniel nodded. You came to decide if I'm safe. If I can be trusted around Grace. Yes. And... Olivia was quiet for a long moment. She thought about the man who had forced her to sign divorce papers on Christmas Eve. The man who had laughed while his family called her garbage. The man who had chosen his mistress over his pregnant wife. And she thought about the man sitting in front of her now. The man who had rebuilt himself from nothing. The man who sent birthday cards that never got answered. The man who kept a stolen photo of his daughter on a shelf where he could see it every day. Grace asked about you. Daniel's whole body went still. She did. Last night. She wanted to know why she doesn't have a daddy. What did you tell her? The truth. That you live far away. That you hurt me. That you love her very much. Daniel's eyes filled with tears again. You told her I love her. I did. Thank you. His voice broke. You didn't have to do that. After everything I did, you could have told her I was a monster. You could have made her hate me. I could have. Olivia leaned forward. But that would have been a lie. And I promised myself I would never lie to my daughter. Not about anything important. So what happens now? Now you answer one question. And you answer it honestly, even if the answer makes me walk out that door and never come back. Anything. Olivia looked into his eyes, searching for the truth. If you had known who I was, if you had known I was Richard Blackwood's daughter from the very beginning, would you have treated me differently? Daniel didn't answer immediately. She could see him struggling, wrestling with the question, searching for the words that would satisfy her while still being true. Yes, he said finally. I would have treated you differently. I would have been intimidated. I would have felt like I wasn't good enough. I would have overcompensated, tried too hard to impress you, probably driven you away within 6 months. That's honest. It's also not the whole truth. Daniel took a deep breath. The man I was back then would have treated you differently because he was weak and insecure and defined himself by external validation. But the man I am now. He met her eyes steadily. The man I am now understands that you gave me a gift. You showed me what I was really like underneath all the pretension. You let me love you without the pressure of your family's expectations. And I wasted that gift because I was too broken to appreciate it. Do you think you could appreciate it now? I'll never know. Daniel's voice was quiet. You're not offering me another chance at our marriage. You're offering me a chance to know my daughter, and that's more than I ever dared to hope for. Olivia stood up. Daniel stood with her, his face anxious. What are you? I'm going to let you meet her. Daniel's legs gave out. He sat down hard on the couch, his hands covering his face, his shoulders shaking. I can't, Olivia, I can't. Not today, not tomorrow. Olivia walked to the door. Sarah's going to be there, and my father, and enough security to stop a small army. But yes, Daniel, I'm going to let you meet your daughter. Why? He looked up at her with red eyes. After everything I did. Why would you give me this? Because she deserves to know where she comes from. Olivia opened the door. And because I finally believe you might deserve to know her too. She left him crying in his small apartment, surrounded by photos of a life he had built from the ashes of the one he had destroyed. 3 weeks later, on a sunny Saturday afternoon, Grace Blackwood met her father for the first time. They gathered in the garden of the Blackwood estate, neutral territory that belonged to Grace, rather than to either parent. William stood on the porch watching like a hawk. Sarah waited by the fountain, giving Daniel space, but staying close enough to support him. Olivia sat on a bench nearby, ready to intervene if necessary. But intervention wasn't necessary. Grace approached Daniel with the directness of a child who hadn't yet learned to be afraid of vulnerability. Are you my daddy? Daniel knelt down to her level, his eyes wet, but his voice steady. Yes, sweetheart. I'm your daddy. Mama says you hurt her. I did. I hurt her very badly. And I'm sorry. Are you going to hurt me? Never. Daniel's voice cracked. I will never, ever hurt you, Grace. I promise. Grace studied him with Elizabeth's eyes, assessing him with a wisdom far beyond her years. Okay. She held out her hand. Do you want to see my garden? Mama and I planted it together. There's tomatoes and carrots and flowers. Daniel took her hand, and Olivia watched them walk toward the vegetable patch, Grace chattering about plants and bugs and the butterfly she had seen that morning. William appeared at Olivia's side. You're sure about this? No. Olivia smiled slightly. But I'm sure it's the right thing to do. Your mother would be proud of you. I hope so. They watched together as Grace showed Daniel her garden, explaining each plant, with the seriousness of a professor lecturing on quantum physics. Daniel listened with complete attention, asking questions, expressing amazement at the right moments, being exactly the father Grace deserved. He's different, William admitted reluctantly. I don't like saying it, but he's different. People can change, Dad. Some people. Some people. Olivia leaned against her father's shoulder. And the ones who can't. We don't have to carry them anymore. Margaret Sterling died that winter. Olivia found out from the obituary published in a small section of the Hartford Courier. No grand memorial, no society tribute. Just a few lines about a woman who had once commanded attention in every room she entered. She didn't go to the funeral. Neither did Daniel, though Olivia learned later that he had sent flowers. Thomas Sterling was there newly sober after his 4th trip to rehab. Robert Sterling stood beside him, shrunken and gray, a man who had outlived his purpose. The Sterling family that had once laughed at Olivia's tears was gone. Not destroyed as William had intended, just diminished. Faded into irrelevance by time and consequence. Olivia felt nothing when she read the obituary. Not satisfaction, not grief, not even the closure she had expected. Margaret Sterling had been a villain in her story. But villains, it turned out, were just people who made terrible choices. People who let fear and insecurity turn them cruel. People who died alone, wondering where everything went wrong. There was no victory in Margaret's death. Only sadness for a life wasted on bitterness and pride. What are you thinking? William asked, finding Olivia in the library with the newspaper. I'm thinking about forgiveness. You can't forgive her, not after what she did. I'm not sure forgiveness is for her. Olivia set down the paper. I think it's for me, so I don't have to carry her around in my heart anymore. That sounds like something your mother would say. She probably did say it. I just wasn't listening. Olivia smiled. But I'm listening now. Grace turned 6, then 7, then 8. She grew up splitting time between the Blackwood estate and Daniel's small apartment, learning to navigate two worlds with the adaptability children somehow always possess. She called Olivia Mama, and Daniel Dad, and William Grandpa, and Sarah Sarah, because Sarah insisted she wasn't trying to replace anyone. She learned about architecture from Daniel, and business from William, and kindness from Sarah, and strength from Olivia. She grew up knowing exactly where she came from, both the good and the bad. On the 10th anniversary of the Christmas Eve divorce, Olivia stood alone in her mother's garden, holding a cup of tea, and watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold. Mom. Grace appeared at her side, 12 years old now, and already taller than Olivia had been at that age. Dad and Sarah are here. They want to know if you're coming to dinner. Tell them I'll be there in a minute. Grace started to leave, then paused. Mom, can I ask you something? Always. Do you ever regret it? Letting Dad back into our lives? Olivia considered the question carefully. No, she said finally. I regret that he hurt me. I regret that we couldn't make our marriage work. I regret all the years he missed with you because of his mistakes. But I don't regret giving him another chance, because that chance gave you a father, and you deserve a father who loves you. Even though he hurt you. Even though. Olivia pulled her daughter into a hug. Love isn't about being perfect, Grace. It's about trying to be better. It's about showing up even when you're scared. It's about choosing forgiveness over bitterness, even when bitterness would be easier. Is that why you're not angry anymore? I stopped being angry a long time ago. Olivia kissed Grace's forehead. Anger is heavy, sweetheart. It takes so much energy to carry around. At some point, you have to decide if you want to spend your life holding on to pain or building something new. What did you choose? Olivia looked around the garden at the flowers her mother had planted, at the vegetables she and Grace had grown together at the house that had sheltered 4 generations of Blackwood women. I chose this. She spread her arms wide. I chose life. I chose joy. I chose to be happy even though happiness takes courage. Grace hugged her tightly. I want to be like you when I grow up. No, sweetheart. Olivia smiled, her eyes wet with tears that were finally tears of joy. I want you to be like yourself. That's more than enough. They walked inside together, where dinner was waiting and family was gathered, and the future stretched out before them like a gift waiting to be opened. 10 years ago, Olivia had signed divorce papers while crying at a Christmas party. 10 years ago, her husband's family had laughed at her pain. 10 years ago, she had believed her life was over. But life, it turned out, was not so easily destroyed. Life was stubborn. Life was resilient. Life kept growing like flowers, pushing through concrete like hope, surviving even the darkest winter. The people who had tried to break her were gone now. Some were dead. Some were diminished. Some had transformed into something better, earning redemption one small choice at a time. And Olivia Blackwood remained. Not as a victim, not as a survivor, but as a woman who had looked into the face of cruelty and chosen love anyway. A woman who had been offered revenge and chosen peace. A woman who had every reason to become hard and bitter and cold, but had instead remained soft enough to let new life grow. That was her legacy. Not the billions she would inherit, not the company she now helped run, not the influence and power that came with the Blackwood name. Her legacy was grace. Her legacy was forgiveness. Her legacy was the simple, radical belief that people could change, that love could heal, that even the deepest wounds could become scars that told a story of survival rather than defeat. The Christmas lights twinkled outside the window as Olivia sat down to dinner with her daughter, her father, her ex-husband, and his wife. An unlikely family built from broken pieces and second chances. But then all families were built from broken pieces. The question was whether you let those pieces cut you forever, or whether you found a way to fit them together into something new. Olivia had made her choice, and she had never looked back. Outside, the snow fell softly, covering Hartford in white, making everything look clean and new. And inside the Blackwood estate, surrounded by people she loved and people who loved her, Olivia Blackwood finally understood what her mother had tried to teach her all those years ago. The best revenge isn't destruction. The best revenge is a beautiful life, and Olivia's life was very, very beautiful indeed.